back to another episode of the Holistic Cannabis Show, where I am your hostess, Dr. Yolanda Henderson, and joined by my wonderful co-host,
Hen Henderson.
Ian Henderson. All right, y'all, we're going to make a quick show today, but we're going to talk about a lot of great information. First of all, we want to shout out all of our happy birthdays. Everyone who have a birthday this month, we want to shout out happy birthday. All right, Mr. Henderson, who's that?
Jared, my cousin Jared Ballard. His birthday is today. Happy birthday, cousin.
Happy birthday. All right, and
Victoria Handy. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, girlie.
That's my niece.
All right. All right, so all the June birthdays, we want to applaud you. Also, there's another friend, Mrs. Okay, I can't remember her name, but Mrs. Jamal. Yes. All right, so we have a World CBD Awards Day coming up. So if you all want to join, this is supposed to be in Spain, y'all. So we're excited about that. If you can make it out, we're going to be in Spain, hopefully, next month for the World CBD Convention, or the Convention Cannabis Awards. All right, so we have a wonderful episode. Topic today is cannabis legalization plus Roe Vs Wade. All right, so we're going to be talking about what's the correlation between the two. All right, so is there a big difference between the Roe Vs Wade being drawn back because it was based upon the lies, according to Roe versus Wade, or was it, the cannabis legalization that made it illegal or prohibited in the past for those different lies and things, and also the racial disparities between the two. All right, so we have some information. We want you to sit back, relax. We have a short video, and we want you all to see what's going on with cannabis. But first of all, Mr. Henderson wants to tell you all the outlets to watch the show, if there's a replay, and how you all could share the show and help us in getting the show aired and viewed with all of our peers who do not know about how cannabis has been and was prohibited and the history behind it. All right, Mr. Henderson.
All right, first you're going to go to your login, to your computer, statusnetwork.net in the search browser. All right, then you're going to download the Status Network app. If you have any questions, comments about the show topic, want to get your opinion heard, call in 470-251-4647. Right. You're on Instagram, manifesttv.status. If you're on Facebook, Status Network LLC. Periscope and Twitter, Status_Network_. Amazon, Fire Stick, and Roku. Status Network, Manifest TV. Look for the Holistic Cannabis Show. YouTube, Manifest TV. Look for the Holistic Cannabis Show.
There you go. All right, so we have this quick video we're going to share about the history and Roe versus Wade right after this.
Versus Wade is one of the most controversial decisions.
It's a case, but it's also a symbol. It's the only Supreme Court case that most Americans can cite by name.
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions.
Roe was interesting because it did articulate the right to abortion as a fundamental right. What the court was saying there was this is on par with other sorts of fundamental rights. The right to marry, the right to procreate, the right to take care of one's children.
The court split 7-2 with Justices Byron White and William Rehnquist dissenting. The 9 justices made abortion largely a private matter.
January 22nd, 1973 would be an historic day.
There's a certain sense in which Roe versus Wade was a bolt out of the blue. The Supreme Court had never before even vaguely suggested that restrictions on abortion were constitutionally suspect.
There's nothing in the history, text of the Constitution, nor really of precedent that would support the decision.
It took what was really a crime in most of the states in the United States, and in all at some point, and it turned it overnight into a constitutional right. That cannot help but be controversial.
Jane Roe was a woman in Texas who was pregnant and didn't want to have her baby, but Texas had perhaps the strictest harshest anti-abortion law in the country. So that even if you were a documented victim of rape or incest, you still were not allowed to have an abortion.
It had the perfect state of facts, even though we now know they were a lie. They claimed that Norma McCorvey was raped. That was not the case, but it seemed to be the most sympathetic possible case.
There was absolutely no evidentiary record from the trial court. The case had been disposed of on summary judgment. And so all you had were a limited number of affidavits. But as far as all of the sort of questions that swirl around the public policy concerns, there was absolutely no evidentiary record.
The case was put before a 3-judge panel of the Federal District Court in Dallas, and there was a unanimous decision to strike down the Texas law. I think the federal court in Texas was a little bit concerned about its own jurisdiction to issue a statewide injunction, and I think they assumed that the Texas legislature would realize that the law had become unavailable. But before that could lay out, the plaintiffs immediately took it to the Supreme Court.
The narrow question that the court accepted cert on was whether or not you could access federal courts to make a federal constitutional claim while being subjected to criminal prosecution. In other words, when a doctor had been accused of performing an illegal abortion, could they go into federal courts and claim, well, I had a federal constitutional right to provide these services to this woman?
Roe was argued twice before the Supreme Court. It was argued despite the fact that in between accepting the case and arguing the case, 2 justices retired. So the court had a choice to make.
It ended up being argued by a very young lawyer who was basically just out of law school, which is unheard of. That was pretty extraordinary.
At least a couple of the justices were deeply committed to taking an abortion case and wanted the opportunity to address whether there was a constitutional right to abortion. But the grant for cert was initially very narrow. And so when counsel for Roe attempted to make an argument that she had some sort of constitutional right to abortion itself, that was cut off pretty quickly because that simply wasn't the issue.
As the drafts of the decision were being prepared, President Nixon nominated Justice Rehnquist and Justice Powell. And so the thought was, it's a kind of a big deal, and we really should have it argued before a full court. And so it was set over for new argument in the fall of 1972.
Because of the 2 arguments, it strung out over a long time because you had 2 complete Supreme Court arguments, 2 complete sittings.
People talk about Roe against Wade as if it was something unique that dropped from the sky, dropped from the Supreme Court. But actually, Roe was just the case that happened to get there first.
But the lower courts were split. The split wasn't so much about whether the woman had a right to make decisions regarding abortion, but whether that right could be restricted because what was at stake was the life.
All right, so y'all can go and watch the rest of that on YouTube. That is the Roe Vs Wade on YouTube. That actually explains. Now, what do you feel about that that short video that we watched, the portion of it that we did watch, Mr. Henderson?
I think we should go with the ladies first.
Mm-hmm. If you have a comment or a question or you want to talk about this topic, please give us a call. The number to call us at is, Mr. Henderson, can you give us that
470-251-4647. What do you think about it?
It was based upon a lie, and it was told that the Roe had been raped. Mm-hmm. Was it a rape? I believe it was a rape that they was trying to make it seem like it was a rape, and she needed to get an abortion or do something of that nature. And it happened in Dallas. I was actually quite, not knowing. I was uneducated about that. That's where I'm from. But she, I feel like she made a choice to take it all the way to court, all the way up to the highest Supreme Court, and the doctors who was actually doing it out of the safety of the women who were raped. I feel like, okay, they were raped. They did not want to go through with having an unborn baby or a baby that would, potentially cause harm to, their mental status or their mental state, being that they will remember that rape. But for someone to falsely accuse and make a law built around a lie, I believe that was detrimental. And because cannabis, if we relate cannabis in comparison, and that's what today's show is about, the comparison of the two laws and how cannabis was prohibited based upon a lie. It was all of these laws and lies that was talking about the reefer madness and how cannabis made people want to go and kill people and people high and, all of this kind of DARE project and all of this kind of stuff. So I have my opinions about the abortion law, but I do, feel like women have a choice, if that makes sense, just like people have a choice with cannabis, and that should be their choice, their own personal decision. And I guess what the law is doing and is making it be like, okay, you need to wear a seatbelt type of thing. You need to be safe. Mm-hmm. But I have an issue with the government intervening with the safety when they are not safe all the way around. You want me to eat healthy. You want me to be safe, but the FDA is not all the way. There's recalls on the foods and the drugs. All right. You want me to, choose, health and life, but you have vaccines or other type of stuff that kills people. We've had all of these recalls on all of this different stuff that actually have been a part of, the death of a lot of the children and a lot of the, I just want to see the proof on how the government is 100% safe, and how when you ban stuff, we see the correlation between people going to the underground black markets, as you may call it, and seeing that you get the non-safe methods. So say, for instance, I want cannabis, right? If they had it legal in the VA system, I could get tested cannabis to where my body, and I know what I'm taking. I'm not just guessing to take something. But then again, we have cannabis synthetics by the same government who's allowing certain synthetic cannabis to be given to patients that's not real plant grown from the soil cannabis, that now I'm still having side effects, and now y'all want to make cannabis look bad. You want to make weed, a plant, be prohibited. Same thing with abortions. If people are going to have banning certain abortions in certain states is not going to, keep those people from having abortions. They'll just go to another state, or they'll go to the black market or however, and they'll get abortions. Which you really don't have to go to the black market. I don't recommend anyone going to the black market to get an abortion or having somebody to do an abortion for you. Especially when we have Plan B, we have IUDs that you can get, we have shots, we have contraceptives like spermicides. We have all of these different ways that we can actually not get pregnant, right, ladies? And so why would there even be a fight about that when we have bigger issues to fight about? Where is the distractions that we're getting from this? If ain't nobody else seeing the distraction here with this, I'm going to point it out, because nobody is really looking at what's going on in the government right now. We're in full-fledged almost war. Russia find out. Hey, I can go on and on for days. Y'all don't want my opinion on this. That's just what I had some other things going on with me. But Mr. Henderson, if anybody want to call in and talk about this, you have the number 470-251-4647 and give us your opinion. I want to hear from you, Mr. Henderson. What you got to say?
What I think about it?
Yep.
Abortion was illegal, and then it was legal. Cannabis was legal.
Was legal.
And then it was illegal.
And it was illegal.
I think that the argument for or against abortion depends on the individual that is, wanting to deal with the issue. Do I think that abortion should be illegal? Of course. Of course I do. And I'm going to just put it out there. I'm entitled to my opinion just as much as somebody who has their opinion that it shouldn't be.
Right. You're entitled to your opinion, Mr.
I think abortions should be illegal.
Okay.
Because people have a tendency of misusing certain things, and abuse is prevalent in everything. To the alcohol, to the cannabis, abuse is prevalent. There has to be some type of parameters put into place. So now say you get your cannabis card and there's a quantity amount attached to your card. And your card says that you can only have an ounce. And you get caught with 10 ounces. I don't think that you should just get a pat on the hand and say, oh yeah, well you got more medicine than what you need. You violated those parameters that were set for you to even obtain that card.
Right.
And in that situation, the law must prevail. Corrective action must be taken. In the aspect of abortions, you got Plan B. So you're on the fence about being pregnant, right? Because very few women know that they get pregnant immediately when it happens. Right. All right, you gotta wait for a minute. You gotta wait for the hormones to line up and everything to be everything. Then you gotta go take a test, and then you throwing up all over the place, missing your period, right? So you know what I'm saying. By the time you actually realize that you're pregnant, between the time of the incident and the time that you discover you're pregnant, if it was in fact rape, you have that window right there. I think anytime before the baby get a heartbeat or a pulse.
Right. And that's why I was saying the Plan B pill, because now you can go to what you know.
I'm not versed enough in women's body to say that after a woman have sex, she knows she had sex, whether it was consensual or non-consensual. But in my rational thought, a person know when their body has been entered. Whether you was drunk the night before or the next day, you know that you've been entered, right? When a man ejaculates into a woman, don't the semen leak back out? You mean tell me there's no trace of no semen once that's over with? So check this out. When it comes to abortions, you get a certain time limit. All right, cool. If you decide to go all the way to 9 months with that baby, or 5 months, nah, you don't get that. I don't think that you should get that opportunity to say, oh yeah, I need to go and have an abortion now. I'm 5 months pregnant, man. I don't want this baby. I changed my mind. You shouldn't get that. Once it goes past 5 months, you might as well hang in there till the other 9 months pass up to the rest of the time that the child is born. And then there are steps even after that that a woman can take if she still don't want the kid.
Right.
She could take the kid to a fire station.
Yeah.
She could take the kid to a Catholic church. And I know what we say about Catholic boys and all these little scandals with them. But still though, they will not turn the baby away if the main concern is that the baby, as a mother, I don't want the baby no more. Then why do you care who it goes to? You could call CPS and take it down to your Department of Health and Human Services, get Child Protective Services on the line, and they gonna come and get the kid. In Georgia, it's called defects. They gonna come and get the kid. You say you don't want it, they gonna come and get it. See?
right.
It's a lot of stuff that you could do with an unwanted baby besides killing it. How about this one? If you have an idea of who the child's father is and you don't want that baby, you done wait 9 months and now you don't want that baby, try calling the dad. If y'all still had that relationship, try calling him. Tell him you want that kid. But to subject yourself, your seed to what that baby have to go through to be removed, once it get bigger in that womb, they had to cut the arms off. They mutilate those babies. And so far, 22 million babies have been disposed of through this method.
Yeah. 22
Black
million.
people make up 12% of the population, but 46% of all the abortions are committed by women of color. Y'all say, oh yeah, well a man ain't got no right to choose what a woman does with her reproductive rights. I beg to differ. Because guess what? Those people that own the birth control companies, they ain't women. They're men. The man already telling you what to do with your reproductive rights when he made that.
Suggestion, a matter of
But he made
suggesting.
that. He made that in conjunction with advice from a woman. Y'all don't believe me? The lady that started Planned Parenthood. She would do interviews that would say, oh yeah, abortion should be legal for the less than desirables, for the mentally incapable, and for the sick. Back in those times, that was used as the politically correct term when talking about African Americans. A president said that Americans, black people, were the scourge of Americans. How about that? That's evident because look at how they treated you all them years in slavery. All right? Ride out to your affluent neighborhoods and take a picture of a Planned Parenthood clinic. They ain't be able to. Ride down to the hood, you're gonna see a building with a big old P right in front of it. Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood not only just help people to facilitate the abortions, but they told you about family planning too, in case you wanted to keep it. It ain't like every person that came in through that door, they say, oh yeah, abortion over there. No, I'm sure they gave you options, right? On their website, they say all the little services that they provide. But I ain't gonna take up too much time talking about it, but that's my opinion. I think killing of kids is all the way bad. And if you black, man, you ain't got no business getting no abortion, no way. We need them numbers.
Right.
That's 22 million pieces of our future that went down the drain. But you got to get to the root cause of why it went down the drain. Some of them were probably going to be birth defects. Okay. You need to have an abortion for that? Bet. That's medical. But just because you didn't want to be a mama, that's not medical, and that should not give you the excuse.
Not only that, I just wanted to add the consequences that come with abortions. We already know that they get mutilated on the inside, but what happens to the mothers who actually have these abortions and they mess up their bodies? They can't have children after the fact. They try, they get pregnant, and their bodies won't hold a baby or a pregnancy because of the prior abortions. What about the instance where parents who have faith in God allowed those sick children to come into this world, and if God gave authority, those babies died? Not that they were given a diagnosis, which people can be wrong all the time. Doctors can be wrong all the time. And those kids come out and they were miraculously healed and was able to live a great life, or the parents gave it a chance for that child to still live, and they are still living here today because they were given a chance to thrive and to live that life that the good Lord gave them to make their hearts beat. And so the history of the abortions and the reason the people who came up with those abortions, we know, we've seen it, and for us to overlook that and to put a blind eye and to say, okay, that's a choice, that's a decision. It is a choice, it is a decision, but so is jumping off a building and killing yourself. You know, so is, you know, driving down the wrong way where you see the sign says everybody go this way and you want to go the opposite direction. That's a choice.
And
it doesn't mean that it's a right choice.
And so is choosing cannabis as a treatment option over pills as a treatment option.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's all a choice.
That choice should not be pressured by the government, which the overturning of Roe Vs Wade, it says that the federal government will no longer fund these abortions. That means the federal government is saying that we'll no longer allocate any funds for abortions.
Right.
Instead, we're going to step back from the situation and let each individual state decide what they want to do. Much like cannabis. Much like cannabis.
That's right.
But if the feds remove the illegal tag on cannabis
Right.
and put it up to each state to decide, then I think that's where we're going to go with cannabis.
That's where we should
That's the same way that we're going to go with cannabis.
And we have some photos of those maps to compare the two and see where abortions are illegal or should be illegal versus where cannabis should be illegal. If we can get those pulled up real quick. All right. And it's just almost a similarity. Yeah, there's a similarity. So this is where abortions are banned. By trigger laws, abortions will likely to be banned and abortion rights protected in a policy that is unclear. So
everywhere in green is where you can go get an abortion. Everywhere in green.
Right, and with the that's almost where cannabis is legal.
Everywhere is green, cannabis
is legal. Look at that blue versus that green over here, or the blue here versus the green on the other one, where weed is legal. You see those states that are wanting to be in control. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to see that this is like a control issue. Thanks for showing that comparison. California, you can see California right there is legalizing cannabis and also will legalize you to be able to get your abortions. Over here where Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, all of these states where cannabis is not even thought about, you know, and it's almost like, okay, well,
look at Texas down there.
Yeah. So y'all seen it here. We have a quick video on the history of the prohibition of cannabis and where that derived from. Right after this, we'll get ready to show you that quick clip.
Weird orgies, wild parties, marijuana.
That is cray.
Weird orgies, wild parties, roots in hell. How did marijuana get such a bad rap? The answer is simple. Racism. As early as the 1800s, there were no federal restrictions on the sale or possession of cannabis in the U.S. Hemp fiber from the plant was used to make clothes, paper, and rope. Sometimes it was used medicinally, but as a recreational drug, it wasn't that widespread. A New York Times article from 1876 even cites the positive use of cannabis to cure a patient's dropsy, basically swelling from an accumulation of fluid. In the early 1900s, an influx of Mexican immigrants came to the U.S., fleeing political unrest in their home country. With them, they brought the practice of smoking cannabis recreationally, and it took off. The Spanish word for the plant started to be used more often too, marijuana, or as it was spelled at that time, marijuana with an H. This is when the more sensational headlines about the drug began to appear. In 1936, a propaganda film called Reefer Madness was released. In the movie, teenagers smoke weed for the first time, and this leads to a series of horrific events involving hallucination, attempted rape, and murder. Much of the media portrayed it as a gateway drug.
Marijuana, a powerful excitant, produces unpredictable emotional results. But its greatest danger lies in the fact that it is a stepping stone to the harder drugs, such as morphine and heroin.
The following year, in 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was passed. Cannabis sales were now taxed. Part of the reason this act was passed was because of all the fear-mongering going on at the time. And a huge instigator of that fear-mongering was the man behind the Marijuana Tax Act, Harry Anslinger. Anslinger was named the Commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics during the Prohibition era. But once national prohibition ended in 1933, Anslinger turned his focus to marijuana. This is when racism and xenophobia really kicked in. Harry Anslinger took the scientifically unsupported idea of marijuana as a violence-inducing drug, connected it to black and Hispanic people, and created a perfect package of terror to sell to the American media and public. By emphasizing the Spanish word marijuana instead of cannabis, he created a strong association between the drug and the newly arrived Mexican immigrants who helped popularize it in the States. He also created a narrative around the idea that cannabis made black people forget their place in society. He pushed the idea that jazz was evil music created by people under the influence of marijuana. But these racist ideas didn't just influence the media's portrayal or the public's perception of the drug. The discrimination they encouraged was evident in real numbers. In the first full year after the Marijuana Tax Act was passed, black people were about 3 times more likely to be arrested for violating narcotic drug laws than whites, and Mexicans were nearly 9 times more likely to be arrested for the same charge. By 1952, the Boggs Act was passed. This made sentencing for drug convictions mandatory. A first offense for possession could land you 2 to 5 years in prison and a fine up to $2,000. Through the 1960s and 70s, weed smoking took on a new perception through the counterculture movement. Young white people resisted mainstream culture and powerful institutions. This was the era of hippies, beatniks, and flower power. But despite all the peace and love, laws continued to emphasize the severity of the drug. The Controlled Substances Act of 1970, passed under President Nixon,
Public enemy number one.
repealed the Marijuana Tax Act and instead made cannabis a Schedule I drug, the most serious class. Schedule I drugs are considered to have a high potential for abuse and addiction with no medical use. Other examples of Schedule I drugs are heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Classifying cannabis as a Schedule I drug has been highly debated since then.
And marijuana is not a Schedule I any more than a hedgehog is an apex predator.
But to this day, it remains in that category, and criminalization still disproportionately affects minority groups in the U.S. The ACLU reported that in 2010, black people were 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana than white people, even though both groups consume marijuana at about the same rate. Some states have taken action to reduce this type of criminalization. 9 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized the recreational use of cannabis, and 29 states allow some form of medical marijuana. San Francisco recently dropped thousands of marijuana-related convictions, and Seattle plans to do the same. But this doesn't change the federal restrictions, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions seems hell-bent on enforcing those federal rules.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Kansas State Representative Stephen Alford made a case against legalizing cannabis by referring to the racist rhetoric of the Anslinger era.
What you really need to do is go back in the 30s, the African Americans, they were basically users, and they basically responded the worst to all those drugs just because their character makeup, their genetics.
And we're still seeing a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
So while some things have changed on the state level, some politicians are sticking with the fear-mongering and racism playbook. even though Pew Research polls show that 61% of Americans now approve of nationwide legalization, up from 16% about 30 years ago. Popular opinion suggests it's high time to reconsider federal laws.
Wow.
That's sad.
Seem like we keep being the target. If it ain't
Americans.
If it ain't Margaret Sanger targeting, it was Harry Anslinger targeting.
Anslinger, that's right.
And then, not to mention, the more current people that the video was just showing targeting.
All right, so we have some wonderful opportunities going on right now, and we're trying to get everyone on board to help our youth. All right, so in the communities that we work in, our nonprofit, the Gift of Life Community Home, is helping with classes now, and with actually hiring individuals between the ages of 16 to 24, and we're giving out skills. We're helping with computer, financial, credit restoration and repair, business etiquette, health coaching, medical cannabis, which is hemp, and fitness, tutoring, cooking, gardening, which also falls into the category of agricultural hemp, teeny weeny teen fitness, which goes into the category of our youth sports, and women defense, self-defense, that's supposed to be, and aromatherapy, natural hair and skin. Then we have food allergies and your first-time home buyers, which goes with credit repair, because a lot of people cannot get a home because of those 3 scores. All right, and so we want you to join us as a member, and as a member, this is what happens. You get Joy's Pottery, and we can go to that. Our members actually get to broadcast their flyers, their business on our podcast every Sunday, and also get to advertise and come on the show once or twice a year. Bye Bye Belly is what I do talk about when you want to get to burning fat. All right, so excess fat, I can help you get rid of that. Come on into the clinic where we're located at 820 Highway 138 inside of the Gift of Life Community Home, which is the nonprofit, and we can get that squared away for you. It's also great for heat massages. All right, so I did want to quickly talk about the endocrine system and how cannabis helps with the reproductive organs and your hormones. It also makes you able to regulate those hormones so that you are able to be functionable, have a better attitude. It also helps with making and having that drive for sexual activities, and making the hormones in the brain, in the pituitary, and the other hormones related to sex more probable to be able to make children. So if you have been going through some situations with being able to have children, try regulating with cannabis. All right, so in other news, we have some great topics. 161 virtual courses now in 5 languages, 50 ebooks, 50 audiobooks, 24 issues of Cannabis World Journal magazine, plus annual subscriptions are now available to all of our students. So once you enroll, you automatically have access to online publications. You do not have to come to the classes anymore. All right, Mr. Henderson.
There I go at the post office, dropping off another bundle of set freedoms. NTA's credit, we on the move. We getting deletions, we removing stuff. We can remove judgments, late payments, repossessions, foreclosures, tax liens, bankruptcy, short sales, charge-offs, medical bills, public records, student loans, collections, inquiries, and child support. For more details, of course, you could always look us up on the website, www.nthcredit.net. You can give us a call at 888-959-2093. And follow us on Instagram, NTH Credit. Follow us on Facebook, NTH Credit. We take a different approach when we do our credit repair. As far as challenging with the bureaus and debtors, we take a lawful approach. All right, we don't use no gimmicks. We don't use no side tricks. we don't believe in doing all of those extras because the law provides a remedy for those items to be challenged and contested. We also offer credit restoration, so that as we're dealing with those challenges and getting those items deleted from the credit report, we're able to replace it with positive trade lines that report positive information, thus improving the score. Longevity builds the profile. All right, so if anybody has any credit questions, you can give us a call at 470-251-4647, or you could look us up on our website, thechcredit.net.
That's right. All right, so there's some events happening, Impacts and New Birth. We're invited to, come out to this July 2nd at 12 p.m. Oh, look it up, details online on Eventbrite. All right, so there's an analysis that cannabis consumers are less likely to be diagnosed with liver cancer. So this is the first and largest population-based cross-sectional study of hospitalized patients to explore the association between cannabis use and HCC. Authors concluded.
Well, all right.
All right. All right, so SCOTUS. So justices declined to weigh in on whether medical cannabis costs can be reimbursed by employers. So by failing to take up the cases, SCOTUS continues to evade the fundamental question with regard to cannabis medical validity. You can tell us what SCOTUS is?
SCOTUS is Supreme Court of the United States, but are they trying to say that the employers' health benefits should cover cannabis for the employees?
Think so. That's just like the same thing with the VA. All right, so safe banking is omitted from scaled-back versions of the American Competes Act. All right, that's in the latest news. All right, and also analysis that drug interdiction efforts at U.S. borders typically yield only small quantities. All right, and then in D.C., Council advances to legislation prohibiting most employers from discriminating. All right, and then the DEA reports significant uptick in marijuana-related seizure and arrests. So I'm happy about that. At the same time, we need to go ahead and move forward to legalization federally. Okay, so there's a survey of over 80% of Americans support uniform quality controls for cannabis products. So the U.S. has a plethora of consumer protection laws. So it is understandable that Americans expect these same consumer protections in cannabis, said the president and founder of Focus. And then there's a review that cannabis provides benefits for migraine sufferers. Investigators concluded that there is an urgent need to implement well-designed studies to evaluate the effectiveness and safety of medical marijuana for treating adults with migraines. And then in Colorado, youth marijuana use declined sharply among teens. So these data are consistent with other surveys showing that marijuana regulation policies can be implemented in a manner that provides access for adults while simultaneously limiting youth across access and misuse. Shouts out to those teens. All right, so we need to take actions, all right? So we need to urge senators to keep safe banking in American Competes Act, all right? So not omitting it, but keeping it. So if you all don't know how to write your senators, there is a website where you can write to your senators to find their email addresses and write to them. All right, and tell President Biden to follow through on your commitment to expunge marijuana records. And then in a bipartisan, expand local government's abilities to expunge marijuana-related criminal records. So let's take actions, okay? All right, shouts out again to our other business members. And that is with Uniquity Couture, the designer Lisa Starks, who's going to be with us for our fashion show in the fall for back to school. Shouts out. All right, so please become a member. Join us for the Natural to Life event in the fall for back to school. If you want to be a part, please give us a call at 1-888-959-2093. We want to see your name or your business logo on our step and repeat for that event. This is also more of the events that we've had previous years. 2015 We had great guests like Ms. Verb Culture. We had Miss Isis Bradley and a lot of other great speakers who were able to share their stories in Texas. So we had it at the Clarence Muse Cafe, the T-Ball, that was in the Dallas area. The Dallas Black Academy of Arts and Letters is what that means. All right, so Teen Pregnancy Before, During, and After, that was my book that I had just came out with actually in 2018. So this was a schedule of events. We're trying to do it the same way that we did it before. So if you're interested in getting a ad in our booklets that we will give out, please give us a call. Again, 404-631-6360 or 1-888-959-2093. And there's a virtual hiring fair. All right. So again, the ages are 17 to 27, what we were talking about before, helping those students, those young adults get a job. All right. So this is in conjunction with the work source in different states. So we're now actually in several other states and hopefully becoming in all 50 states where we're hiring and helping in opportunities in retail, hospitality, security, tourism, and much more. All right. So I am looking to book wellness scans. So if you are needing to save money or to get a deeper look into your situation without having all of the side effects, you can get a scan in 5 minutes and it will tell you all of your deficiencies in order to help your body to be in a state of healing, and that will, help you and help educate others as well in your family. So if you become a member, you also get 5 free scans a month, and that will include 5 people who you want to get a scan. If you have a business, that would include your business, people in your business, say for instance, your employees or anybody that want to get a scan. Mm-hmm. All right, Mr. Henderson. Again, we want to say and send our condolences to those who passed. We did go to a funeral this past Friday, and Miss Eloise, we want to send the family condolences. We're going to miss you. She was a wonderful lady and very active in the community when she could be, and we just wish there was more time. We hate to say goodbye to our loved ones. Also, to a very special person in Georgia, Mr. Tom McCain from Peachtree Normal. The last time we were together, he was standing up, and he was telling me about his health conditions. We didn't get a chance to get the scans like I wish we would have, but we're sending prayers to Ms. Barbara. We know that Tom did great work here in Georgia advocating for cannabis for years. He was the director of the Peachtree Normal, and he did some great things. There's too much to even talk about and to name it. So we're looking forward to working to continue the fight that he left off in here in Georgia and try to get cannabis legalized here in Georgia. That's what he would have wanted. That's his wish for Georgia, and we're going to continue to fight in his name and honor. So thank you again, Mr. Tom McCain and family. We want to say thank you for all of our viewers today for watching the show, and we wish to see you next week, same time and place.
Y'all stay on the lookout, man. Get it together.